Well, when we practice right mindfulness, what we're doing is we're clarifying the mind and brightening it, so that the mind is aware, that is experiencing life as it really is, experiencing the sense objects that it encounters as they really are. It says in the suttas, what is the world? What is the all? And the Buddha says what's the sense stores, and it's our sense objects, and it's our processes of cognizing and perceiving them. That's what the world is. That's what everything is here in samsara. And this is quite a crucial thing to understand in life, that we're kind of going about in sense experience, but we're not so often experiencing reality. It's the difference between our sense experience and reality. Everything that we consider life to be, everything in our lives is actually a sensory experience to us. The voices of our loved ones and their smiling faces, and the glare off of the computer screens, and the feel of the desk in front of us. And here, the feeling of the floor and the sound of the voice. These are all sensory experiences. But they're actually subjective experiences. Ajahn Chah is a major figure in the Ajahn Mun lineage, meditation master of Thailand, and he gave a teaching that the fish swim in the water, but they don't see the water. And birds fly through the sky, but they don't see the air. And people walk around in the world, but they don't see the world. Instead, what they have is a sensory experience, a subjective sensory experience. And the heart is kind of in its default setting, intrinsically clear. That's the heart itself. But it's typically clouded by delusion. That is, it's clouded, so it cognizes sense objects. That is, it comes in contact with the world, with sense objects. But being clouded, it knows them falsely. It's clouded by delusion, it knows them falsely. And if we initiate mindfulness, then this clears out the delusion that clouds the mind. And we start to experience the sense objects more accurately. One of the key points we take from Buddhist instructions on mindfulness, this quality of mindfulness, is that we initiate it and we want to use it to be aware of what is going on in the present moment. The past is a sort of dream, and it no longer exists. And the future is a fantasy. And so real knowing, actually understanding what's going on, happens in the present if we initiate this quality of awareness. Displacing delusion. They say that if you could see the heart, when mindfulness is activated, it shines like a diamond in the heart. It's bright and it clarifies the heart. And if we can keep this awareness continuous, if we can kind of keep the finger on the mindfulness button within the heart, then we start to experience the ever-changing nature of life, of our sensory experience. This is something of tremendous value, because it's due to having a clouded heart in misperceiving sense objects, that is life, generally, as being constant, experiencing all of those things in our lives as being constant, that we become involved with them, and we attach to them, and we identify with them, and we think of them as being us and ours. But inevitably, they must change. With this cloud in the heart, experiencing sense objects as being constant, the sound of a voice, or the feel of the heat or the cold in the room, or harsh words, or an alluring scent. The heart initiates liking and disliking. Okay. And this is the cycle that we go through over and over again in our day-to-day lives. Experiencing sense objects, the heart initiating liking or disliking, reaching out and taking hold of them, proliferating on them, the liking or the disliking growing, feeling urges to take action. And then after we act, experiencing the consequences. And feeling that we've either acted skillfully or unskillfully. And when those things that we've attached to change, oftentimes feeling disappointment or sadness. This takes place on a small scale in our day-to-day lives, over and over again, and it takes place in the bigger picture as well, in the big picture of our lives, as we develop ambitions and plans and fall in love and raise families and go through the various hardships that we have in life and experience the successes. Experiencing the gratification of success and experiencing the heartbreak of failures. Until we come to the inevitable consequences of birth. So, illness and old age, unless we pass away when we're young, and eventually death. Ajahn Chah once said, if you're not mindful, you're crazy. He had had a bit of a sharp wit sometimes, and wanted to drive his point home sometimes to us. And he would say this, and sometimes we might chuckle at this, recognizing to some degree the truth of this. But from the enlightened perspective, he seems that he was rather serious. But he pointed it out to us so that he would get his point across, that for our own welfare, he wanted us to be mindful. Now, when we meditate, for example, today we meditated on the breath at first. This is considered a mindfulness of the body meditation theme. The breath is tied up with the body, and it's a body within the body, as it says in the sutras. And so it's a mindfulness of the body meditation theme within the four foundations of mindfulness. And I also guided those who are interested in meditating on good things that they've done. This is blended together a few different formal meditation objects from the suttas. The Chaga Anusati, which is recollection of our sacrifices, as also could be considered generosity. And Sila Anusati, that is recollection of our morality or our self-control around ethical issues, such as the undertaking of the 5 precepts. Then we have I mentioned you could think of your meditation as something good that you've done. Interestingly, this isn't in the suttas as far as I recall, but meditation is extolled by the Buddha as being a very meritorious, a very good activity, and some of the meditation masters talk about this as a recollection object as well. So, chanting also is a form of kind of contemplation, or giving rise to skillful qualities such as faith, for example. These objects, the first two that I mentioned, the Chaga Anusati, recollection of sacrifice or generosity, and the Sila Anusati, the Buddha taught to his foremost female lay disciple, Lady Visakha, in the suttas, in his recommendation to observe the Uposita Day, a religious observance day each week. In doing so, this is a very inspiring theme. It helps the mind to collect and refreshes the mind. And it is in a way a practice of mindfulness also. The word nusati, as in Chaga Nusati, is related to the word sati, or mindfulness. And we have to use our mindfulness to keep our mind on the theme, that is, the good things that we've done. It's not used in exactly the same way as the mindfulness like a diamond that radiates and clarifies the mind for directly experiencing sense objects as they really are. but it has the effect of developing skillful qualities in the heart and displacing unskillful qualities. It can be a very good platform for moving into 4 foundations of mindfulness practice, such as mindfulness of the breath, as we were also practicing. When delusion is present, say that it's as though the heart were clouded, pervaded by a cloud that distorts our perception, so that we experience life falsely. And with delusion in the heart as a necessary condition, the heart may generate liking or it may generate disliking in relation to its sensory experience. These are additional layers of clouds in the heart. Say that aversion is black, and greed is red. So it's good. If you put on a cloudy black goggles, you're looking at life through cloudy black goggles, or looking at life through cloudy red goggles. And we can use a meditation theme such as this Chaga Anusati or the Sila Anusati, these kinds of good things that we've done, to clarify one level, one of these kind of screens across the heart that distort our vision. Another one's quite useful is the loving kindness meditation. If we sit down to meditate and we find that we're trying to be aware of the breath, for example, but we're thinking of something that really agitates us, experiencing aversion to something, maybe something somebody said, or something they did that we really didn't like. It may be difficult to focus the mind on a subtle object like the breath. And so a period of a little bit of loving kindness meditation can help by displacing the blackness in the heart. And then we can, as we like, go back to the breath meditation and displace the cloud of delusion. And developing our awareness this way in the present with the breath, we become more and more skilled and more practiced in pushing the mindfulness button in the heart. So that as we go about in the world and the sea of sense objects can become less reactive, experiencing them more closely as they really are. When life throws at us things that we ordinarily wouldn't like, if we have our mindfulness present, if it's keen, if it's continuous, the heart can be at peace. The heart can stand solid and not get so involved in our sense experience. It's an independence of heart with clarity that's calm. And as we practice and come to these afternoon sessions, you may find that over time, that as you practice and the heart becomes lighter and lighter, it becomes quite joyous. heart's light and clear. This feels so good. Our moods are elevated, and when we come in contact again with the sensory experience, the sense objects of our day-to-day lives, we may see them a little bit differently because our mood and our perspective has changed. Rainy days don't seem so glum. We don't get so caught up in the worldly ambitions. And we can see that over the long run, this is going to be very good for us when we have to encounter very serious problems in our lives. So, going to be practicing some more meditation today. Usually this group goes until 4. I'd like to recommend that for any of you who like it, go ahead and keep trying those 2 kinds of meditation themes I recommended earlier. We were using in the guided meditations. I think the counting style is one that's worked for me. And if you have another style that you prefer, or if you prefer to use a meditation word, of course, all of those are wonderful. The idea is to try to pin the mind, if you will, onto the breath, when you're practicing breath meditation. So it's simply a means to help us stay with it. If we do the 1 to 5, and then 1 to 6, and 1 to 7, all the way up to 10, as we were doing during the guided meditation, one set adds up to 45 breaths. And if you would like to set a goal for yourself, you can see, well, can I do all 45 without missing a single inhalation or exhalation? If you can, then that's your mind will be quite steady, quite calm, quite a good level of mindfulness, and you can try meditating on the breath without the numbers. Clearly knowing the breath as it is in the present moment, through all of its flux and change. Quite a remarkable feeling. And then when we go out to practice walking meditation, you might want to try doing the counting with your footsteps. Some people walk quite slow and as they like, and in the lineage of Ajahn Mun and Ajahn Chah, usually we walk about a regular, relaxed walking pace, with trying to develop attention on the footsteps. So you could count 1, 2, 3 with each footstep. I do just 1 through 10, and then I do 1 through 10, and then I stop and I turn around. And I center the mind again, and I do 1 through 10, and I do 1 through 10. Stop and turn around, so 20 paces each way. Seems to work for me. I think you want to have enough of a track to kind of develop a trend in the mind of following the footsteps. But short enough that you have this kind of stop. So you stop and mindfully turn around, recenter the mind, and then start the next set. It's such a lovely day out today. Not cold, and it's sunny. And we can relax and just be present and be aware of the footsteps in this excellent opportunity we have now to practice. Quite a light and quite a happy experience. Before we start the next meditation session, I'd like to ask if anyone has any questions about the meditation, whether it's doing sitting or walking meditation, before we continue